Krishna.
Powerful.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namo, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya Te. Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namo, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya Te. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namo, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya Te. Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namo, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya Te. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Hari Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna,
Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Hari Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Krishna.
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Hari Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Krishna.
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Hari Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hari Krishna.
Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Hari Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada,
Krishna,
Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Shila Prabhupada.
Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda, Ananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda, Ananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda,
Namo Siddhaswarupananda,
Krishna,
Paramahamsa Namo.
Hari Krishna,
Gora Karuna Swarupaya,
Krishna.
Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namo. Gora Karuna Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prasayate.
Let us continue our study program. But before we continue, I'd like to recap what we studied yesterday. It is about meditation and focus upon the Supreme Person. And also now we should appreciate the care and love that Lord Krishna is giving us. And the importance of having this human form of life. Because having this human form of life, we can inquire who we are, we can direct our lives, use this body to be connected with what is pleasing, what is the desire of the Supreme Person. And also, we should appreciate the time that is given to us. Krishna is time. So, being in this human form, we are under the laws of time. And this time, we should appreciate that we can use it, not waste it, just by following the desire in our mind for a goal that is an illusion, that is temporary, because it ends when the body ends. It should be a focus of taking very carefully the gift, the time, Krishna, and use it to meditate upon His love, His care for us. So I'll read here the instruction of Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion to enthuse us, to give us guidance, to give us assurance how we can use this human form of life. Because as what can we see now, everybody is so afraid of death. But we have already studied and understood our true identity, our true essence, that we don't die when the body dies. No, the question is what kind of life will we be living? Will it be a life of emptiness, sadness, a separation from that care and love? When we make our meditation focus upon this temporary world and about ourselves alone, it's all about us. So the problem is about our meditation. So we can see how we have become separated through the process we are engaging in. It's all about ourselves, our will, our desire, and we are not self-sufficient. And our natural role is to render loving service. That is eternal religion. So I'll read here the teachings of Rupa Goswami to encourage us so we can appreciate the value of coming in contact with God, the coming in contact with His representative, the opportunity to be situated in that world of eternal devotional service. That is our true life, true activities. Because it's in an eternal, natural activities that we can do every moment of our time in this world. And when we go back home, where there is no time, that is the world of engaging in loving devotional service, in reciprocation with the Supreme Person, in loving surrender. The rareness of pure devotional service. In the preliminary phase of spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, and similar process for attaining self-realization. However, even if an executor of these processes is without any material desire, he still cannot achieve devotional service. And aspiring oneself alone to achieve devotional service is not very hopeful, because Krishna does not agree to our devotional service to merely anyone. Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. Devotional service can in fact be attained only through the mercy of the pure devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 19, 151 verses, it is said, by the mercy of the spiritual master, who is a pure devotee, and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of pure devotional service. There is no other way. So we can see now the opportunity of having this human form of life and coming in contact with Lord Krishna. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, one comes in contact with his confidential loving servant. And through association with the loving servant of Lord Krishna, one can understand and be enthused to surrender and engage in loving devotional service. So I'll read here the meditation of the pure devotees, the loving servants of Lord Krishna. Because what we're doing here about this miserable world is all temporary. It does not exist in the spiritual world where there is no time, there is no death. Being in wisdom, realizing our true identity, aham brahmasmi, Brahman realization about my transcendental nature can now be perfected when it is directed in meditating upon the instruction, the lotus feet of our spiritual master, Lord Krishna, his desire and his love, the focus. So I'll read here the pastimes of the devotees of Lord Krishna when he came here 5,000 years ago, so we can be of wisdom, we can be understanding the life of a true lover of God. Delivering the wives of the Brahmanas who perform sacrifices. The morning passed and the cowherd boys were very hungry because they had not eaten breakfast. They immediately approached Krishna and Balaram and said, "Dear Krishna and Balaram, you're both all-powerful. You can kill many demons, but today we are much afflicted with hunger, and this is disturbing us. Please arrange for something that will mitigate our hunger." Requested in this way by their friends, Lord Krishna and Balaram immediately showed compassion on certain wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices. These wives were great devotees of the Lord, and Krishna took the opportunity to bless them. He said, "My dear friends, please go to the house of the Brahmanas nearby. They are now engaged in performing Vedic sacrifices known as Angirasa, for they desire elevation to the heavenly planets. All of you, please go to them." Then Lord Krishna warned his friends, "These Brahmanas are not Vaishnavas. They cannot even chant our names, Krishna and Balaram. They're very busy in chanting the Vedic hymns, although the purpose of Vedic knowledge is to find me. But because they are not attracted by the names of Krishna and Balaram, you had better not ask them for anything in my name. Better ask for some charity in the name of Balaram." Charity is generally given to high-class Brahmanas, but Krishna and Balaram did not appear in a Brahmana family. Balaram was known as the son of Vasudev, a Kshatriya, a warrior, and Krishna was known as in Vrindavan as the son of Nanda Maharaj, who is a Vaishya. Neither belonged to Brahmana community. Therefore, Krishna considered that the Brahmanas engaged in performing sacrifices might not be induced to give charity to a Kshatriya and a Vaishya, but at least if you utter the name of Balaram, they may prepare to give in charity to a Kshatriya rather than to me, because I am only a Vaishya. Being thus ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the boys went to the Brahmanas and began to ask for some charity. They approached them with folded hands and fell down on the ground to offer respect. "O earthly gods, kindly hear us who are ordered by Lord Krishna and Balaram. We hope you know them both very well, and we wish you all good fortune. Krishna and Balaram are tending cows nearby, and we have accompanied them. We have come to ask for some food from you. You are all Brahmanas,
and knowers of religious principles. And if you think that you should give us charity, then give us some food, and we shall eat along with Krishna and Balaram. You are the most respectable Brahmanas within the human society, and you are expected to know all the principles of religious procedure. Although the boys were village boys and were not expected to be learned in all Vedic principles of religious rituals, they hinted that because of their association with Krishna and Balaram, they knew all those principles. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna and Balaram, asked for food, the boys would immediately deliver it without hesitation, because it's stated in Bhagavad Gita that one should perform yajna, sacrifice, only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. The boys continued, Lord Vishnu, as Krishna and Balaram, is standing waiting, and you should immediately deliver whatever food you have in your stock. They also explained to the Brahmanas how foodstuffs are to be accepted. Generally, the Vaishnavas or pure devotees of the Lord do not take part in ordinary sacrificial performances, but they know very well the ceremonial called Diksha, Pasu Samta, Sautramya. One is permitted to take food after the procedure of Diksha and before the animal sacrifice ceremony and the Sautramani or ceremony in which liquor are also offered. The boy said, we can take your food at the present stage of your ceremony. For now, it will not be prohibitory, so you can deliver us all the foodstuffs. Although the companions of Lord Krishna and Balaram were simple coward boys, they were in a position to dictate even to the high-class Brahmanas engaged in Vedic rituals of sacrifice. But the smarta Brahmanas, who were simply sacrificial-minded, could not understand that the dictation of the transcendental devotees of the Lord. They could not even appreciate the begging of the Supreme Lord, Krishna and Balaram. Although they heard all the arguments on behalf of Krishna and Balaram, they did not care for them, and they refused to speak to the boys. Despite being highly elevated in knowledge of Vedic sacrificial rites, all such non-devotee Brahmanas, although they think of themselves as very highly elevated, are ignorant, foolish persons. All their activities are useless because they do not know the purpose of the Vedas, as it is explained in Bhagavad Gita. To understand Krishna, in spite of the advancement of Vedic knowledge and rituals, they do not understand Krishna. Therefore, their knowledge of the Vedas is superficial. Lord Chaitanya therefore gave the valuable opinion that a person does not have to be born in a Brahmana family. If he knows Krishna or the science of Krishna consciousness, he is more than a Brahmana, and he is quite fit to become a spiritual master. These are various details to be observed in the performance of sacrifices, and they are known collectively as desa. They are as follows. Kala means the time. Pritak, Dravya, the different detailed paraphernalia, mantra, hymns, tantra, scriptural evidences, Agni, fire, read bij, learned performers of the sacrifice, Devadatta, the demigods, Bhajamana, the performer of the sacrifice, Kratu, the sacrifice itself, and Dharma, the procedures. All of these are for satisfying Krishna. It is confirmed that he is the actual enjoyer of all sacrifices, because he is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Supreme Absolute Truth, and beyond the conception of speculation of material senses. He is present just like an ordinary human boy. But for persons who identify themselves with his body, it is very difficult to understand him. The Brahmanas were very interested in the comforts of material body and in the elevation to the higher planetary residences, called Svargavasa. They were therefore completely unable to understand the position of Krishna. When the boys saw that the Brahmanas would not speak to them, they became very disappointed. Then they returned to Lord Krishna and Balaram and explained everything that had happened. After hearing their statement, the Supreme Personality of Godhead began to smile. He told them that they should not be sorry for being refused by the Brahmanas, because that is the way of begging. He convinced them that while one is engaged in collecting or begging, one should not think that he will be successful everywhere. He may be unsuccessful in some places, but that should not be the cause of disappointment. Lord Krishna then asked all the boys to go again, but this time to the wives of the Brahmanas engaged in sacrifices. He also informed them that these wives were great devotees. They are always absorbed in thinking of us. Go there and ask for some food in my name and the name of Balaram, and I am sure they will deliver you as much food as you desire. Carrying out Krishna's order, the boys immediately went to the wives of the Brahmanas. They found the wives sitting inside their house. They were very beautifully decorated with ornaments. After offering them all respectful obeisances, the boys said, "Dear mothers, please accept our humble obeisances and hear our statement. May we inform you that Lord Krishna and Balaram are nearby? They have come here with the cows, and you may know also that we have come under their instruction. All of us are very hungry. Therefore, we have come to you for some food. Please give us something to eat for Krishna and Balaram and ourselves." Immediately upon hearing this, the wives of the Brahmanas became anxious for Krishna and Balaram. Their reactions were spontaneous. They did not have to be convinced of the importance of Krishna and Balaram. Immediately upon hearing the names, they became very anxious to see them. Being advanced by thinking of Krishna constantly, they were performing the greatest form of mystic meditation. All of the wives then became very busily engaged in filling up different pots with nice foodstuffs. Due to the performance of the sacrifice, the various foods was all very palatable. After collecting a feast, they prepared to go to Krishna, their most lovable object, exactly in the way rivers flow to the sea. For a long time, the wives had been anxious to see Krishna. However, when they were preparing to leave home to go to see him, their husbands, fathers, sons, and relatives asked them not to go. But the wives did not comply. When a devotee is called by the attraction of Krishna, he does not care for bodily ties. The woman entered the forest of Vrindavan on the bank of Jamuna, which was burdened with vegetation, newly grown vines and flowers. Within the forest, they saw Krishna and Balaram engaged in tending the cows along with their very affectionate boyfriends. The Brahmana wives saw Krishna putting on a garment glittering like gold. He wore a nice garland of forest flowers and a peacock feather on his head. He was also painted with the minerals found in Vrindavan, and he looked exactly like a dancing actor on a theatrical stage. They saw him keeping one hand on the shoulder of his friends, and on the other hand, he was holding a lotus flower. His ears were decorated with lilies. He wore marks of tilak, and he was smiling charmingly. With their very eyes, the wives of the Brahmanas saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of whom they have heard so much, who was so dear to them, in whom their minds were also absorbed. Now they saw him eye to eye and face to face, and Krishna entered within their heart through their eyes. They began to embrace Krishna to their heart's content, and the distress of separation was mitigated immediately. They were just like great sages who, by their advancement of knowledge, merged into the existence of the Supreme. As the super soul living in everyone's heart, Lord Krishna could understand their minds. They had come to him despite all the protests of their relatives, fathers, husbands, brothers, and all the duties of household affairs. They came just to see him, who was their life and soul. They were actually following Krishna's instruction in Bhagavad Gita. One should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupational religious duties. The wives of the Brahmanas actually carried out the instruction of Bhagavad Gita in total. He therefore began to speak to them, smiling very magnificently. It should be noted that in the connection that when Krishna entered into the wife's heart and when they embraced him and felt the transcendental bliss of being merged with him, the Supreme Lord Krishna did not lose his identity, nor did the individual wives lose theirs. The individuality of both the Lord and the wives remained, yet they felt oneness in existence. When a lover submits to his lover without any pinch of material consideration, that is called oneness. Lord Chaitanya has taught us the feeling of oneness in his Sastaka. Krishna may act freely, doing whatever he likes, but the devotee should always be in oneness or in agreement with his desires. That oneness was exhibited by the wives of the Brahmanas in their love for Krishna. Krishna welcomed them with the following words. My dear wives of the Brahmanas, you are all very fortunate and welcome here. Please let me know what I can do for you. You're coming here neglecting all the restriction and hindrance of relatives, fathers, brothers, and husbands. In order to see me is completely befitting. One who does this actually knows his self-interest, because rendering transcendental loving service unto me without motive or restriction is actually auspicious for the living entities. Lord Krishna here confirms that the highest perfectional stage of conditional life is conditional soul is to surrender to him. One must give up all responsibilities. This complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most auspicious path for the conditioned soul, because the Supreme Lord is the supreme objective of love. Everyone is loving Krishna ultimately, but realization is according to the advancement of his knowledge. One who comes to understand that his self is spirit soul, and that the spirit soul is nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate goal of love, and thus one should surrender unto him. This surrender is considered auspicious for the conditioned soul. Our life, property, home, wife, children, house, country, society, and all paraphernalia which are very dear to us are expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the central object of love because he gives us all bliss, expanding himself in so many ways according to our different situation, namely bodily, mental, and spiritual. My dear wives of the Brahmanas, Krishna said, you can now return to your homes, engage yourself in sacrificial activities, and be engaged in the service of your husband and household affairs so that your husband will be pleased with you, and the sacrifice which they have begun will be properly executed. After all, your husband are householders, and without your help, how can they execute their prescribed duties? The wives of the Brahmanas replied, Dear Lord, this sort of instruction does not befit you. Your eternal promise is that you should always protect your devotees, and now you must fulfill this promise. Anyone who comes and surrender unto you never goes back to the conditional life of material existence. We expect that you will now fulfill your promise. We have surrendered unto your lotus feet, which are covered by the tulsi leaves. So we have no more desire to return to the company of our so-called relatives, friends, and society, and give up the shelter of your lotus feet. And what shall we do? Returning home? Our husbands, brothers, fathers, sons, mothers, and our friends do not expect to see us because we have already left them all. Therefore, we have no shelter to return to. Please, therefore, do not ask us to return home, but arrange for our stay under your lotus feet so that we can eternally live under your protection. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear wives, rest assured that your husband will not neglect you on your return, nor will your brothers, sons, or fathers refuse to accept you, because you are my pure devotees. Not only your relatives, but also people in general, as well as the demigods, will be satisfied with you. Krishna is situated as a super soul in everyone's heart. So if someone becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, Krishna immediately becomes pleasing to everyone. The pure devotee of Lord Krishna is never inimical to anyone. A sane person cannot be an enemy of a pure devotee. Transcendental love for me does not depend upon bodily connection. Krishna said further, but anyone whose mind is always absorbed in me will surely very soon come to me for my eternal association. After being instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the wives again return home to their respective husband. Pleased to see their wives back home, the Brahmanas executed the performance of sacrifice by sitting together as it enjoined the Shastra. According to Vedic principle, religious rituals must be executed by the husband and the wife together. When the Brahmana's wife returned, the sacrifice was duly and nicely executed. One of the Brahmana's wife, however, who was forcibly checked from going to see Krishna, began to remember him as she heard of his bodily features. Being completely absorbed in his thoughts, he gave up her material body conditioned by the laws of material nature. Shri Govinda, the ever-joyful personality of Godhead, revealed these transcendental pastimes, appearing just like an ordinary human being, and enjoyed the food offered by the wives of the Brahmanas. In this way, he attracted common persons to Krishna consciousness. He attracted to his words and beauty all the cows and cowherd boys and the damsels of Vrindavan. After the return of the wives from Krishna, the Brahmanas engaged in the performance of sacrifice began to regret their simple activities in refusing food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They could finally understand their mistakes. Engaged in performance of Vedic rituals, they have neglected the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had appeared just like an ordinary human being, and asked for some food. They began to condemn themselves after seeing the faith and devotion of their wives. They regretted very much. Although their wives were elevated to the platform of pure devotional service, they themselves could not understand the Supreme Soul. They began to talk among themselves, "To hell of our being born Brahmanas! To hell with all our learning, all Vedic literatures! To hell with all our performing great sacrifices and observing all the rules and regulations! To hell with our family! To hell with all our expert service in performing the rituals exactly to the description of scriptures! To hell with it all! For we have not developed transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the speculation of mind, body, and senses." The learned Brahmanas, expert in Vedic ritualistic performances, were properly regretful because without developing Krishna consciousness, all discharge of religious duties is simply a waste of time and energy. They continue to talk among themselves. The external energy of Krishna is so strong that it can create illusion to overcome even the greatest mystic yogi. Although we expert Brahmanas are considered to be the teacher of all other sections of humanity, of human society, we also have been illusioned by the external energy. Just see how fortunate these women who have so devotedly dedicated their lives to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. They could easily give up their family connection, which is so difficult to do. Family life is just like a dark well for the continuation of material miseries. Women in general, being very simple in heart, can easily take to Krishna consciousness. And when they develop love for Krishna, they can easily get liberation from the clutches of Maya, which is very difficult even for the so-called intelligent and learned men to surpass. According to Vedic scriptures, women are not allowed to undergo the purificatory process of initiation by the sacred thread, nor are they allowed to live brahmacharini in the ashram of the spiritual master, nor they are advised to undergo the strict disciplinary procedure, nor are they very much expert in discussing the philosophy of self-realization, and by nature, they are very pure, nor they are very much attached to auspicious activities. But how wonderful is that they have developed transcendental love for Krishna, the Lord of all mystic yogis. The Brahmanas explain they have surpassed all of us in firm faith in devotion unto Krishna, being attached to materialistic way of life, although we are considered to be master of all purificatory process, we did not actually know what the goal is. Even though we were reminded of Krishna and Balaram by the cowherd boys, we disregarded them. We think now that is simply a trick of mercy upon us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that He sends His friend to beg foodstuffs from us. Otherwise, He had no need to send them. He could have satisfied their hunger then and there just by willing to do so. Patapos na. If someone denies Krishna's self-sufficiency on hearing that he was tending the cows for livelihood, or if someone doubts he is not being in need of the foodstuff, thinking that he is actually hungry, then one should understand that the goddess of fortune is always engaged in his service. In this way, the goddess can break her faulty habits of restlessness. In the Vedic literatures like Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna is served in his abode with great respect by not only one goddess of fortune, but many thousands. Therefore, it's simply an illusion for one to think that Krishna begged food from the Brahmanas. It was actually a trick to show them the mercy of accepting him in pure devotional service. The Vedic ceremonial paraphernalia, the suitable place, suitable time, different grades of articles for performing ritualistic ceremonies, the Vedic hymns, the priest who is able to perform such sacrifice, the fire and the demigods, the performer of sacrifice and the religious principles are all meant for understanding Krishna. For Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, and the Lord of all mystic yogis. Because he has appeared as a child in the dynasty of the Yadus, we were so foolish that we could not understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas said, but on the other hand, we are very proud because we have such exalted wives who have developed pure transcendental service of the Lord without being shackled by our rigid position. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Krishna, under whose illusory energy called Maya we are absorbed in punitive activities. Therefore, pray for the Lord to be kind, though to excuse us because we're simply captivated by His external energy. We transgress His order without knowing His transcendental glories. The Brahmanas repented for their sinful activities. They wanted to go personally to offer their obeisances unto Him. But being afraid of Kamsa, they could not go. In other words, it's very difficult for one who surrenders. It's very difficult for one to surrender fully unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead without being purified by devotional service. The example of the learned Brahmanas and their wives is vivid. The wives of the Brahmanas, because they were infused by pure devotional service, they did not care for any kind of opposition. They immediately went to Krishna. But although the Brahmanas had come to know the supremacy of Lord and were repenting, they were still afraid of Kamsa because they were too addicted to punitive activities. Thus end of Bhaktivedanta purport of the 20th chapter of Krishna, delivered by the wives of the Brahmanas who performed sacrifice. So to recap, the focus of meditation is Lord Krishna, and how to achieve it? By the mercy of the spiritual master, who is a pure devotee, and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of devotional service. There is no other way. So now we have this human form of life. Krishna is time. So what will we do with our time? What will we do with our focus and meditation? So we are advised to be following the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan, the wives of the Brahmanas. Then our life will be successful because it is what is pleasing to Lord Krishna. Haribol Namaste.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Karuna Sopaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Siddhaswarupananda, Radha Krishna
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Guranga,
Jaya Jaya Shiva Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shiva Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Shiva Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shiva Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Shiva Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shiva Prabhupada, Krishna Narayana.
Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana, Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Narayana,
Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Shri Advaita Gadadhara,
Hari Bol Krishna,
Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda. Prasayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Naviye, Mohana Siddhaswarupananda, Hare Krishna Krishna
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Naviye Guru Karuna Sarupaya Hare Krishna Prasayate. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Galadhar Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Bol Namaste.